Hello to our viewers. This is Csinszka here with the last episode of Initiate Youth Talks, where I talk to aspiring young professionals from mostly Eastern Europe, but also the Balkans and Southern Europe, discussing the challenges and opportunities in the energy transition and the means by which we can accelerate robust change in how we make, consume, trade, and also think about energy, frankly, with best practices from the region. I had some amazing interviewees from Hungary, Poland, Ukraine, Romania, Slovakia, and Spain already. And today I'm very glad to have Denisa Kasa on the series, who is a member of our East Meets West network at Energy Investment Management from Albania, who will tell us about a very interesting research that is closely intertwined with the aim of this interview series. So I'm very excited to have this conversation today. Denisa, thank you very much for joining us today.
Hi, Csinszka. Yeah, thank you so much for the opportunity. It's amazing to be doing this interview today.
As well for me. Denisa, first of all, would you please tell us a little bit about your study background and the research project that you're currently working on at Energy Investment Management, and what countries it is focusing on specifically?
Yeah, of course. So my studies were in international business administration at Erasmus University in Rotterdam. And then from that, I moved on to becoming an investment advisor at Energy Investment Management, where I consult different companies with their investment strategies in the renewable energy sector. And yeah, in addition, maybe also the reason of having this interview, I'm conducting a market research on the investment and business opportunities that energy transition brings to Central and Eastern European countries. And the countries that I will more specifically be focusing on are Poland, Romania, Ukraine, and Bulgaria. And the reason behind this is because these countries are larger in size, but also in population. So for investors, they are often the more attractive markets to start investing in the region.
I see. So these are some attractive size-ish countries then to focus on. I wonder what regional circumstances are there to keep in mind before investing in these countries? What are your findings on that?
Yeah, so as all of us know, these countries have a history of being part of a communist rule for a long time. So now at the moment of speaking, they are still undergoing a lot of changes and investments in infrastructure. So of course, this also translates into the energy sector. So when we're talking about the grid, for instance, it often happens that the grid is rather developed in areas where coal-fired plants are located. So whenever new renewable energy projects are planning on being built, they cannot be built because the grid solely cannot accept any more energy into it. So it has to be further extended and further developed. So of course, whenever a new investor or a local investor is planning on building a project here, they have to evaluate the location first and see whether it's actually feasible. And in addition, there are also, of course, some sort of policies that sometimes hinder the progress. And this is for when it comes to solar energy, it's not really an issue. It's I think it's a quite an easy process to invest in solar in these countries. But with wind energy, it changes because a lot of countries have, such as Poland and Hungary, have policies that say, or usually the policy is called okay.
The 10E rule, I think that's what you're talking
yeah, the 10E rule, indeed. The Distance Act. I was in Poland. It's called the Distance Act, and what it says is that whenever you're building a wind turbine, it has to have a distance from residential buildings that is at least 10 times the size of its height. So of course, this, for instance, in Poland in specific, allows the constructions only in 1% of Poland. So of course, this 1% could also be in locations that wind is not really attractive for investors. So yeah, policies like this sometimes are also really hindering the energy transition in the countries.
Yeah, so you said grids, most importantly, and enabling policies, which I agree with very much. I wonder if there's interesting insights that you can share from talking to business leaders in the region, as I know that you recently made a business trip to Romania to talk to some of these leaders. How are they, if they are, diversifying their business portfolios in order to participate in the energy transition?
Yeah, so of course they're taking a lot of different measures and diversifying their portfolios in different ways, or also in accordance to the part of the value chain that they operate in, and also the technology that they are working with. So for instance, the distributors of energy, or DSOs, are really focusing on decentralization and also digitalization. And this is because normal consumers right now are shifting to becoming prosumers. So what it means is that they are becoming people or businesses or small companies that produce and also consume the energy themselves. So right now, DSOs also have to really specialize and put more effort into also satisfying these new demands that customers are having. And in addition, for the same reason that now people are really incentivized by the government to actually start producing energy themselves by putting solar PVs in rooftops of retail centers or the rooftops of their houses. Also, companies that are specialized in building large-scale projects for solar panel farms now also have to satisfy these new demands and becoming more specialized, and also building smaller size projects that don't have the size of megawatts anymore, but maybe just kilowatts. So yeah, these are also new demands that are coming up and have to be satisfied by the businesses in these regions.
Now, a little bit a different question about participation. I wonder, because of course you and me, for example, have another 40, 50 years to contribute to this energy transition. I wonder, how would you motivate young professionals to focus on their careers on the energy transition in this region specifically?
Yeah, I think this region in specific is very, very attractive because there is where a lot of energy transition efforts have to be put in. And I also think that the younger generation in this region is really taking a role in making it happen. They are really aspiring for their countries to become more developed and to become more sustainable. So you can hear them talk you can hear them talk with their universities. You can hear them also in the media. They're really taking a stance. So I think in that respect, they're doing quite well. But I also think that there is more help needed. They need to get more assistance from their universities and from the government. So I would really sort of motivate the youth to also push their universities to offer them more classes on how to build different careers in the renewable energy sector. And also for student founders, maybe start pushing universities to also create incubators where they can come up with their new ventures that can also help accelerate renewable energy in these regions. So yeah, I think it's just having a more proactive approach to change, I would say.
Yeah, and also more progressive, because I feel like in Western Europe, maybe these incubators or student unions or the type of education might already be in place, but maybe in our region it's still to come. So it's a very good point to raise about education. Now about your home country a little bit. I wonder what you think about Albania's progress with the energy transition.
Yeah, Albania is quite an interesting country actually, because historically its energy mix has been constituted 100% by renewable energy. So, and specifically hydropower. And right now it holds quite an advantageous position, I would say. And also with the Green Deal, it doesn't have as many concerns as the other countries to shift. But however, it's still having a lot of plans to accelerate renewables even further. So a lot of local and foreign investors are also investing in solar panels, which is a quite attractive technology for Albania, considering that the country has 300 days of sun in a year. And now also with global warming, maybe a bit more. So yeah, it's also putting its effort there, which I think it's quite good. And in addition, I also read that some first talks for the development of wind power farms are being considered. So like new tenders are being issued, but they are only gonna announce the winner of these auctions in February 2023. So yeah, it's quite nice to see that Albania is accelerating renewables even further there than it already has. So I think it's great progress.
Oh yeah, it's. I think we can definitely call maybe than a front runner in renewables, especially. And of course, it's. I mean, it's blessed with a very good geography for that. So
Yeah, yeah,
unfortunately, not every country has that. But
yeah. I think this can also actually give it a role to sell energy to also the foreign, not to foreign countries, but the neighboring countries as well, when it's allowed. So
yeah, definitely. If it's well interconnected, then it's a huge source of revenue as well. It's very nice to have some insights into the Albanian energy transition. Thank you. I have a last question for you, which I pose to every one of my interviewees. I wonder if you have a favorite tool, let that be a technology or a policy tool, instrument, and so on, in the energy transition that you think works very well and maybe specifically applicable to Albania or the region.
Yeah, so as you know, with my research, I've really been focusing on the view that investors have when they look at the market. And from what I've seen so far, and from the talks that I've had with business leaders in the region, PPAs or power purchase agreements are a very attractive tool that makes interested parties really invest in something. And what PPAs do, for people that maybe are not familiar with the concept, is that two companies, one of them is an energy consumer and one of them is an energy provider, usually sign this agreement together that the energy provider is going to supply energy to this consumer for an amount of X years. So yeah, it's very attractive because it really makes the decision-making process more comfortable. Otherwise, it would be a bit, it would be rather unclear whether you can actually get the right customers. Are you going to have enough of demand? If you invest in a specific country, would they prefer a local investor, for instance? So yeah, it's really something that puts ease when it comes to investments.
Yeah, it provides security for both the consumer, both the producer, in terms of risk and anticipation of consumption and so on. It's a very good tool. Thank you for raising it as an example. And thanks a lot, Denisa, for all your amazing answers. Let me also thank you for all of those who followed this series, and I hope you gained a better understanding of the regional circumstances in Eastern Europe and the Balkans, of the elements that are needed to succeed with what might be the biggest challenge in the fight against climate change, which is creating a sustainable energy transition that leaves no one behind, with the participation of youth as well as women, and of course businesses and policymakers. All of the episodes of this series are going to be online on Energy Investment Management's YouTube channel as well as Enlit's publishing platform. And stay tuned, because even though this series has come to an end, in the future, we are looking to produce other content with the participation of the East Meets West Network, and we hope to have you follow along. Thank you again, and thanks to you, Denisa, too, for being here.